That'd be kind of cool to get some.
Dog.
Get some love on it.
I'll get it done.
Yeah, but that's funny. Yeah, I can't believe it. So Josh Allen get right game, man. We just tend to do things like that, and it's frustrating.
Frustrating as hell.
So yeah, for those of you that play Mutt, and for those of you, no one's watching you yet, but basically for those of you that play Mutt, basically Josh Allen is a 91 NFL Player of the Week, and it all happened because of us. So
Jesus,
that's tough, man. It's tough.
We've been too kind to people so far.
We have.
It's happened. Before you jumped on, Tony, I was telling George Rio's podcast. He said if your certain players having a slump, just play us. We'll fix that slump right up.
Well, that seems to be the way. That seems to be the way at the minute. And you know, look, I think that for me as well. I'll say this when we get into it, but if we want to try and be calm about it, we can do that because you know we played two teams who are going to be real contenders, potentially the Chargers, and the Bills may be the best team in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've played two quarterbacks who might be MVP contenders. So you know, that's not to say that we're playing well because we're not. But you know, I think that's why this week is such a key.
Oh, here's Doug. Doug's in here.
But you know what? You know what's crazy?
What's up, Big Doug?
Yeah,
is that we had,
what's that?
What's up, Doug? Is that we had less defensive talent and we still hung with the GOAT and lost by a touchdown.
Yeah,
that's true. But I challenge everybody, everyone that's watching right now, and you three in the room. I challenge you guys to watch that game again. Like watch the actual Buccaneers Washington game. I saw it like right before the season, and it was like, yes, Taylor Heineke played pretty well, but it wasn't like the Josh Herbert, Josh Allen that we're thinking of. It wasn't that like explosive. No. He played a good game. I think it was more of an unexpected, like this guy's performing pretty well given the standards and expectations, as opposed to like he's a Dak Prescott right now, or he's like a Josh Allen is dominating right now. It wasn't really that regard. So he played well, and he's basically playing the way he's played the first 3 weeks of the year. But I don't know if that's like a franchise quarterback in our opinion, you know. So
we'll see. I mean, we're going to talk about it, aren't we, in the pod later?
We are. Yeah. We can start any minute now. So real quick, guys, just for on your end. We are streaming, so we're live, Doug, by the way, or we should be live. Okay. It says we have one viewer on it right now, but I don't see it on my feed. Do you guys see it on your feed by any chance?
We're on Twitter, live stream on Twitter now. Okay.
Yeah, we are. So we should be under, like, I don't know if it comes out after we're done recording. It doesn't make it wouldn't be live per se, right? So I don't really know.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm on FPC Washington, I don't see it, and I'm on yours and I don't see it.
Interesting. Yeah, it says that we're on. It said we have one viewer apparently, so I don't really know what's going on. I don't know where they're viewing us at. Maybe Facebook or something.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Did you have a good birthday, Doug?
I did. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome. What you do, Doug? Before we get started, what you do for your birthday?
Yeah.
We picked up some seafood and my wife whipped it up at the house, and then we just sat around with the dog and drank some wine.
Hell yeah,
there you go.
It sounds
that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you guys all ready to rock?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it, guys. So, welcome everybody to the Full Press Coverage podcast featuring George Carmi, Trevor Stores, Tony Wheat, and my man Big Doug. Let's get it. What's up, everybody? We are here today with our Full Press Coverage podcast, a little middle of the week podcast to kind of ease our stress after a pretty difficult loss that we faced last week against the Buffalo Bills. I'm here with my man Trevor. How you doing, Trevor? What's going on?
No, not much. Still upset, still hurt. I won't feel better until Sunday at 1:00. So, but I'm here.
There you go. Glad that you are here, man. What's up, Tony? What's going on, man? How you doing?
Pretty good, thanks. Pretty good. Yeah, just same as Trev. Kind of calmed down after Sunday a little bit now. Walk back off the ledge a little bit. So yeah, we'll be okay.
And we're graced to have Big Doug here today, man. How you doing, Doug? What's going on?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here. You guys, I was shocked. You shocked me with that intro there. I wasn't ready for that.
There you go. Nice, man.
Some Game of Thrones stuff going on there.
Definitely very epic intro. Very epic. Yeah. So I'm really happy to have Doug on here. Yeah, I'm very happy to have Doug on here. So way back in the day, Doug was one of the first people I've ever been on a podcast with, and we just kind of laughed the other day because I was on his podcast. We both come a long way. It's I think when me and Doug first talked, it was like no video. We're just kind of talking over a phone, and we recorded it and we posted it up, and look where we are, man. So we made some big strides. So happy to have you, Doug.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me, for sure.
Of course, brother. So let's all jump into it, man. So basically, it's been a rough start to the season. 1-2. All of us are diehard Washington fans. We really care about this team. We follow every single game, every single player, every single scheme that we do. Clearly, the season hasn't gone the way we hoped, and honestly, we're I don't know if we're at dire straits yet, but 1-2, getting blown out last week, things aren't going so well. So, my big question is, I'm going to keep it really eloquent. What the hell is going on with our team right now? Okay. And are the problems fixable? Can we fix any of these situations? And I'm going to throw it to our first guest, Doug. What do you got, man? What the hell is going on with Washington right now?
Well, I think they got ahead of themselves. For one, I think that they thought they were just come out and beast on people, but the league changes every year. The tape's out there, and we watch the tape, so they're watching the tape.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of change in the secondary. I forget, it was my brother said it to me the other day, and I really hadn't thought about it. I mean, think about the end of last year when this defense was really rocking and rolling, and it was Cam Curl, and it was Jeremy Reeves, and it was Jimmy Moreland, and it was Ronald Darby, and it was Kendall Fuller outside. Take a look at the secondary now. Who's in that mix? You got 2 people left in that group. So maybe it's just that the communication isn't there yet. I mean, it's obviously not there yet, but I do think that's fixable.
No, 100%, Doug. I'm actually really glad you started us off with that. I actually was on What Gibbs FF podcast yesterday, Fantasy Football Intervention, and I was talking about that too. We're like, hey, what is going on? And why? We talked about zone defense in particular, and why was our zone defense not working so well? And I kind of hinted at what you said, Doug. I said, you know what, we take for granted that our defense has changed. We think, we have 7 or 8 starters that are the same from last year, but our back end, we have Landon Collins back. He was gone for our big run at the end of the season. We have Benjamin St-Juste playing on the boundary corner. We have, Kendall Fuller's kind of playing more of the slot now, and then Jamin Davis playing the middle linebacker. So,
and Bobby McCain.
McCain, exactly. That's a great call. Good job, Doug. Yeah, exactly right.
He's so good. He's good.
I actually like him. He's not doing too bad, and I think,
but he's new.
He's new. Exactly right. So it's you want to think that camaraderie and communication will kind of hit it right off the beginning, but maybe that's what we're seeing right now. So, Trevor, what do you got? What do you think? What the hell's going on in Washington?
I think on our back end, from linebackers, some into the secondary, is miscommunication. I think that's fixable. And then our defensive line, that's just a whole different story because there's nobody new on that front. They were all there together last year. I tweeted out a video of a clip. Marcus Spears was talking about our defensive line, specifically Chase Young and Montez Sweat. They're sack hungry, and you can see it. They're just worried about, I guess, them getting to the quarterback rather than making the defensive line a unit as one to get into the quarterback. So, but I do think they're both fixable, like Doug said. I think it's just we have new pieces in the back and the secondary. They got to gel, have some continuity. It's the 3rd game. But defensive line, there's kind of no excuse. It's like you kind of switched up your whole technique from last year. You guys were beasts as rookies last year. And then it's like, yeah, teams have tape, teams are chipping you, but you haven't thought about maybe developing your game a little bit. And because people are figuring you out so easy now. So if they were just kind of come back down to earth, get back to what brought them there in the first spot, I think we could be successful.
I agree with you. It's kind of the talk of the town this week, right? Are people freelancing? Is Chase Young regressing? Did he feel like he arrived this year? The line is bad, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit later on. I want to give a little hat tip to John Allen. I think John Allen's still having a good year. I think he started off the first 2 games of the year. I think he has 3 sacks, which is pretty impressive for a defensive tackle. But I think we really expected. I feel like we assumed the defensive line was going to be the motor of our team, and they haven't done it so far, and they're not really generating a lot of pressure. But
and I want to add too, I love Matty Ioannidis 98, but he just can't seem to stay healthy.
You're right.
And he's a force to be reckoned with, but it's like, man, he just can't stay healthy. So
And he's playing a rotational role. He's not really playing heavy minutes, and he's still getting knocked out of the game, which is pretty something to keep an eye on. Tony, what about you, man? What's your concern so far this year?
I mean, I think as the guys have touched on already, I mean, from things change from one season to the next, but the back end of last season, the defense seemed to be playing really fast. It was really in a zone, and it was kind of, it was clearly playing well. Whereas at the start of this season, now we look as if we're playing more reactively and a little bit softer, and I think that might be a sign of the changes in personnel, the sort of the communication breakdowns that have happened. The Slayton drop catch in the Giants game. Were it not for that, we'd be 0-3 because that would have put us 10 points down with 6 minutes to go. So that's just one example of what the guys were alluding to there around the communication. So all the things you said there around are they freelancing? The D-line, I was listening to Logan Paulson on Keim today, and he was talking about how teams have worked the D-line out to a certain extent, and that they're getting a little bit of play action in there. They're throwing a few screens. They're trying to basically not allow them just to concentrate on a rush. And he also said he'd spoken to one of the D-line. He didn't say who it was, but he was saying that there appeared to be some confusion amongst the D-line around, whether they should be pinning their ears back and going, or whether they should be sort of trying to react a little bit more. So clearly at the moment, things are bedding in on that defense. So, and again, like the guys have said, I think it is fixable, because I think when you combine a little bit more time with the players gelling and hopefully the coaching staff making some adjustments, these guys obviously spend all week looking at the film and reacting in practice. So, I think the things are fixable. I mean, I'm not actually as concerned about the record. 1-2, 1-2. The Chiefs are 1-2. The Seahawks are 1-2. It's not great, but I'm more concerned about the performance than the record at this stage. So, there's the obvious things that everybody said. We can't get off the field on third down. We've conceded scores on nearly 60% of the drives. We've conceded a touchdown the first drive of every game, and the team's not really built to play from behind. And all these kind of things sort of contribute. So it's concerning, but and I've been pretty close to the panic button a couple of times after Sunday, but I've managed to sort of take the finger off the panic button a little bit now, and just trying to be a little bit more, try and look at the bigger picture a little bit more, and just kind of say, look, it's still early. Trying to be positive as well, because it's so easy to be negative, and so many people are negative. Let's not jump on that bandwagon and just kind of say, I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to panic until after this Sunday. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Sunday's a really big game. We're going to talk about that today.
It is.
Yes, it is pretty big already, which is unfortunate. So we'll see. Tony, I like what you're saying. I think I'd like to think of each NFL season like a big storybook, right? And we basically went through 3 chapters so far. And clearly we can get right. You think, we have a winnable game next week against Atlanta. If we kind of pull off that win and kind of level out at 2-2, the world's our oyster. And I think we definitely can get right. I think the bigger part that you're talking about is there isn't a lot of inspiration from our team right now, right? You're watching the game and you're like, man, we snuck a win against the New York Giants. Okay, our defense
the flag saved that.
Yeah, the flag saved the game. Okay, and then on top of that, for what it's worth, and we're going to get into Heineke later on. It's all right, I love to. We're very impressed with what he's doing so far, but very rarely, in NFL history, has a starting quarterback gone down and your team got better because of it. You know what I'm saying? We have a backup quarterback coming in. Tom Brady did for Drew Bledsoe, so that's kind of take that.
The only exception.
Yeah, only exception, right?
There aren't many.
Very rarely do you fall forward, right? When someone gets hurt, you get better when someone goes down. So, we'll see. I mean, I know people like Taylor Heineke, and we're going to kind of pass that around the mic a little bit later on. But, hopefully we catch lightning in a bottle with him. But it is, I think the coaches are kind of wary about him. I think they like him. They think he's doing pretty well, but they don't want to kind of overfeed him, if that makes any sense. Give him too much and kind of put too much on his plate. But
well, I will say this before we get into that. Ron Rivera did say today he is not afraid to play Kyle Allen. But right now, Taylor Heineke is the starter. So he's already mentioned. He's mentioning Kyle Allen's name in week 3/4.
I think it's worth.
Ron gave up a 5th for Kyle Allen. That's Ron's guy. Heineke is most certainly Scott
Turner's guy.
Yeah.
I think it's worth pointing out. I think it's worth pointing out as well that we say what the hell's going on. We spent a lot of the off season and the build up to the season talking about Fitzpatrick and Samuel. We're 3 weeks into the season and we've had a quarter.
It's Heineke to
yeah,
Tony. Tony, you nailed that, right? So 2 of our 3 marquee free agents are shelved for the year. We have been shelved for the year so far. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. So
yeah,
right.
the whole idea was that it was going to provide, more diversity to the offense. It was going to provide more downfield threat to the offense, and the offense at the moment doesn't look that different to how it's looked before, really. In terms of, it looks a little bit stodgy, and it's not really it's not threatening to put 30, 40 points on a board most weeks. So so we should remember that as well. And Samuel was at practice today with full pads on, so that suggests that potentially may even play this weekend. Now, if that's the case, then that obviously gives us a little bit more diversity. But yeah, we've missed the 2 big the 2 big name offensive signings that we had in the summer.
I totally agree. So let's kind of keep going with our defense real quick for our next question, right? So we kind of hinted at it a little bit. Going in after 3 weeks, okay, we thought there was talk all offseason that Washington's defense would be top 5, top 3, maybe number 2 overall. We were hoping to kind of improve on our number 2 overall standing last year, right? We currently sit with 29th in yards allowed, okay, and 31st in points allowed. So not only are we not top 10, we're bottom 5, bottom 2, bottom 3 in regard to some of the biggest statistics in the NFL, right? So who is to blame with this, right? Would you blame the coaches or the players? And what's your comfort level and stress level with Jack Del Rio? So I do want to hear about that. And let's kind of start off with Tony. Start off for us. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit and say that there's definitely aspects of both of it. I mean, I think to me, ultimately the players are the ones on the field, and there's been a number of issues with execution around communication. We've talked about that already. You would hope that will improve with practice time and with better understanding. To me, the defensive coaching, as I said before, I think we've been a little bit too basic now. In some ways, I think that we, again, listening to Paulson today on Keim, he was saying that there's some of the setups, there's very little in terms of adjustments. There's very little in terms of disguise of formations and coverages and things like that at the moment, from what he was seeing. And that, NFL offenses and offensive coaches are too good to just not take advantage of that. So I think that there's a certain amount of responsibility on the coaches, so they have to go and make adjustments in that regard. But the players have responsibility, and I think Trev touched on it as well before. There seems to have been a certain amount of players playing for themselves rather than the team at times. And again, Paulson touched on that as well, where he said that it seemed as if players were chasing stats, or if they were kind of chasing not doing something for the betterment of the team rather than for the betterment of themselves. Now, there is a concern that we bigged ourselves up too much over the off season because of the end of last season, and people did say that we'd faced backup quarterbacks and feasted on, to use a cricket term from over here, is a flat track bully, which is somebody who's very good against bad opposition. So this year we faced 2 MVP level quarterbacks in the first 3 weeks, and we're going to face we've got a murderer's row of quarterbacks coming up over the next few weeks. So, the defense was always going to be tested a lot more this season. And as Doug said, it's a different defense personnel wise, at the back end. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's definite concern there, and I think the coaches have to. I think the coaches have to provide a bit more variety, but at the same time, the players have got to take responsibility for the execution. And the other thing that was of a concern, and it was something that I don't know if you saw, guys, but when Brian Baldinger pointed out this week, and Baldinger doesn't tend to be a hot takes guy particularly. He studies the film, and he came out and he was criticizing the effort of the defense. Now, it's hard to say. I haven't watched the film in enough detail, but that's got to be a real concern. If someone of his sort of level of respect is criticizing defensive efforts, then that's got to be a concern. Now, that's his opinion. Obviously, it might not necessarily be